Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield. And get out of my dreams. Get into my car. And I just lost all of our listeners with this. Joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margot D. Hello, friend.
Mercedes, Mama Mercedes. I love this movie.
The soundtrack is so dope.
It's so on point. I love this soundtrack.
I love it too. Every song is like, baby, you could drive my car. Like, it's all about cars. It's just ridiculous. We're talking about 1988's License to Drive, starring the Coreys. Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, Heather Graham, and her gorgeous hair. We're going to talk all about that hair.
Yes.
Playing a character named Mercedes Lane, of course. Of course, that's her name. It has to be. Did you see this movie in the theater?
I don't have a memory of seeing it in the theater. It might have been something I rented.
I think I probably saw it in the theater because I was seeing everything in the theater at the time. But I don't remember really. Like, it didn't. I wasn't like, oh, yay, License to Drive, and like saw it multiple times. Like, I probably saw in the theater and was like, yeah, that was something to watch, and went on my way. I wasn't all in on the Coreys. I was still like all about Jason Bateman at the time. Still am.
Yeah, you know what I'm realizing? It was at that time that my dad stole cable. And so we had a movie channel that played things before. It was out of the movie theater, but before it went to VHS. It was like the sweet spot.
Oh, that like pay-per-view.
It was pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And so we would see things, and it's 88, 89, 90. There's movies like Can't Buy Me Love.
Yes.
And this, and there's a few others where I know every beat of this movie. Hiding Out.
Yes, we did a whole episode about Hiding Out. Yeah, and here's the thing, like around this time, there weren't like a shit ton of movies about teenagers, you know, and there wasn't like Netflix. We didn't have that stuff where you could just watch whatever you wanted whenever you wanted to watch it. So when a movie came out and it had young people in it, we all got really excited.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there was MTV, but there wasn't like a teen channel. It was like either for kids or adults.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Did you have crushes on the Coreys?
Fuck no. No. They were always like little boys to me. I remember Lucas. We used to watch Lucas a lot in my house. Lucas was on HBO all the time.
Really good.
Yeah, in a lot of ways I see him as Lucas. Yeah. And Corey Feldman, for some reason, I just see him more as like the dude that did all those reality shows, like Celebrity Stay at Home or whatever it was called. Celebrity.
Shit, what was that one called? The Surreal Life.
The Surreal Life. And he did it with Vince Neil and then Andrea from 90210.
Yes.
And everybody hated him because he was so annoying.
Oh, Corey.
Poor Corey, but the both of them have been, it's hard, you know, you go do some research about them after this happens and you're like, oh my God, these poor kids were abused and taken advantage of. And it's like, I hope they had fun sometimes doing this stuff. I hope, I mean, it looks like they're having a good time, but they always look like little boys to me.
Yeah.
There's something about them that's very stunted in a childish view in my head. So I didn't have that. My long answer to your very short question. No, I didn't have crushes on them.
No, I didn't either. And it's not because I didn't, and I did like them. Mm-hmm. Like, I really liked Corey Haim. Like, he was in a lot of, like, we talked about The Lost Boys, which was the first movie with the first two, with the Coreys. We love The Lost Boys, by the way. You can go back and listen. Michael. Go back and listen. Michael. Corey Haim has such a baby face. Even as an adult, he had such a baby face that I was like, that wasn't really my jam. But he's really good in everything. Like, everything he did, he was good. And Corey Feldman definitely had like a type that he liked to play, like kind of wise ass that he was really good at. And oh my God.
The Burbs. Do you remember the movie The Burbs?
Yes.
He's great in that. He's like the neighborhood kid. Like Tom Hanks is in there. That's another movie we should discuss.
Yes.
Yeah. I think he was a kid actor. He was in a lot of shows. I remember like from sitcoms.
Yeah.
When he was little, and he apparently like supported his family with it. Back to the sadness, but let's go back to the
but we're going to try not to focus on that. I just remembered I have a picture of my sister and I with Corey Feldman from like maybe 2000. We went to I was working as a reporter, and there was like a fan fest thing in our town, and I went, and Corey Feldman was there, and we had our picture taken with Corey Feldman. So I'll try to find it. Was he nice? He was super nice. He signed a picture. Oh, that's great. He signed a picture for us. He asked he answered a few questions, and he was legit really, really nice to us. And
I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah. And then we went to another one maybe like a year later, and Corey Haim was there. And Corey Haim, he looked really good. Like, so maybe it was before like everything was happening, or maybe he was like on a break from everything. But he had a really long line, and we were like, no, we're not going to do that. But he looked good.
I was working at the mall at like 1990, because that was the law. You're a teenager in California.
You have to.
You have to work at the mall. Corey Feldman did a concert at Stone Ridge Mall.
Oh my God, I know exactly what mall you're talking about. That was the nice mall, by the way.
That was the nice mall, and it's like in Pleasanton, California. Mm-hmm. So you would tell your client, I'm sure they told them, oh, you're going to be in the Bay Area, and they're thinking San Francisco.
Yes.
Or even San Jose, but no, they're not thinking of Pleasanton. But he did a concert at the mall, and he dressed up like Michael Jackson.
Yes.
And he did a couple of Michael Jackson songs, and then he did Michael Jackson's version of a Beatles song, Come Together.
Yeah.
And then he did his own stuff. But we had thousands of screaming girls, and his date was Vanessa Marcel.
She's beautiful.
And all security guards at the mall, they're not exactly, they're the Paul Blart types. And I said, how was he? And they're like, actually, he was okay. And they said his girlfriend was really sweet and super beautiful.
Yeah. He did go through like his Michael Jackson phase, which is
he really pushed the musician stuff,
which is a bit of a red flag. But yeah. But once again, we're going to try real hard not to. We're failing at it, but we're trying.
Well, look, we met him. Or we saw him at least in the wild, at some point. So
exactly.
Of course we're going to mention it.
So this License to Drive is basically Corey Haim's character, Les, is trying to get his driver's license, and he wants to impress his crush, which is Heather Graham. Mercedes Lane. I'm sorry, that name. It's so on the nose. And that's really the whole thing about the movie, and getting a license was a big deal. Like, that is like your freedom. You don't have to rely on your parents. You don't have to take the bus and rely on like schedules to get places. So it's a big deal. I totally remember that time. Let me ask you this. Did you pass your driver's test the first time you took it?
No, I didn't.
Me neither.
I failed, and it was parallel parking and 3-point turn. I forget, it was like a couple of things I fucked up, and I was so disappointed in myself. I passed the written test.
Me too.
But it was the actual drive, and I was actually scared of driving. And I actually taught my younger siblings when they were really young to get them comfortable with it, because I learned in the wild. The first time I was behind the wheel was in Ridgewood, New Jersey.
Oh my gosh.
With my teacher, and his brother was Lou Albano, the wrestler.
Yes. The Hulk.
Not the Hulk.
Oh, no. Sorry.
Remember from the Girls Just
Yes.
Wanna Have Fun videos?
Yes. Okay.
His brother was my drive ed instructor.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so not kidding.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Anyway, but I was through Ridgewood, which is nothing. It's a little, suburban town, but that was the first time I did it. And then you had to go to Paramus to get Lodi, to get your license. And I failed. And so I had to go back like a month later, but I passed the second time.
Yeah.
But I was so upset when I failed.
Yeah. The first time I took it, which by the way is not at all like it is portrayed in this movie. None of my driver's ed experience is like what's in this movie. And it's pretty I was pretty close to the same age when this movie came out. So there's nothing in it that I'm like, that totally happened to me. But I did fail the first time. I passed the written, failed the driving. Don't remember why I failed the driving, but I was definitely not a confident driver. And I was so devastated and embarrassed. I was like embarrassed that I failed, and I started crying in the DMV. Like my grandmother had taken me. I was really embarrassed. It took me almost a year to work up the courage to go back. And
oh wow,
yeah. And we just talked about this in a bonus episode for What a Creep. I was really shy in high school, and it was really hard for me to work up the courage to do some of these things.
I think 16 is young too.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no excuse because in New Jersey at the time anyway, it was 17. That's when you got your driver's license. But you could get your learner's permit a year before. But for some reason, I don't know if my parents didn't want me to or whatever. But yeah, it took me a while. But once I took to driving and I had more confidence, I was totally fine. But the first few times, I remember my instructor like, "You've never driven a car before?" Like I just had no idea how anything worked.
Yeah, and this one, they are taking driver's ed at school, I think, which we also did. And then there's this whole thing where they're taking the written test on one of those like movie computers that's like,
yes, that's magical.
Yeah, and it's like, you failed, like all over the screen, and practically sirens go off. Woo, you're a loser. Like none of those things happen in real life, but he fails his driver's test. His twin sister passes quite easily, and she has like the easiest driving instructor too. Is like super.
Do you know who that is?
No, who is it?
Greg Goodeve. He's from Eight Is Enough. He was the big brother.
Oh
on
my
Eight Is
God,
Enough.
that is a flashback.
Yeah, and he's like super like, hey, good job. Like that's the kind of instructor I need. Somebody gentle. I don't need somebody that makes me hyper. But also when you're learning, there's two other kids in the back seat, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm not crazy. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, that's how we did it too. But Corey Haim's instructor is like, I don't believe in clipboards. And like puts like a full 7-Eleven coffee on his dash and is like, don't spill my coffee. And he gets like every nightmare scenario on his thing. It's like parallel parking while like people are walking around, and it's the tiniest little spot. He's like trapped on a hill with like the old couple behind him, like honking at him, like all of that stuff, which by the way, I live in San Francisco. I still hate like being on a fucking hill. I'm like, oh, no, it's so stressful. He just has like the nightmare scenario, but he passes the driving part, but he doesn't pay attention to the details, and he does not pass the written.
Right.
So he goes home, and then he lies about it, which, not smart, to his parents. Carol Kane, so funny as his like very pregnant mother with her gross like huge plate of mashed potatoes. And it's like, and then she's covering it in ketchup. And look, I understand this is a running joke about pregnant people and cravings. I've been pregnant. I did not have this.
Oh.
But maybe it's a thing. Maybe it is a thing. Like maybe they really do like, I want pickles and ice cream, or I want a pickle and anchovy sandwich, or whatever. None of these things happened to me. I don't know where this thing started. I did eat a lot of burritos, but I eat a lot of burritos now.
Well, he's like from the nicest family. Like his parents are so easygoing. And how did this kid would be? He's such an a-hole. I mean, he's a teenage boy.
Yeah, and he's so entitled.
Very entitled. Like asks his dad for a BMW. Like, do you not
know
that you're not rich? Like, how is this? And then he has two best friends. So that's Corey Feldman and then the other guy. And I don't know who the other guy is, but he's done some other acting. But they have Mercedes, and they're at a party, and then Mercedes is like she has an older boyfriend.
Yeah.
Because of course she does. And then they get into an argument, and then she turns to Corey Haim and she goes, oh, he's my boyfriend. He's going to take me out on Saturday night.
Yes.
Just randomly. And then he doesn't get his driver's license, but he does have this girl that he wants to take out. So he's basically going to sneak her out in the car. And they go to a club, and she's like, oh, let's just park here where there's no parking. And she's like, what are you, an amateur? Like,
yeah, is
no
this your
asshole.
Is this your first time driving?
Right. And it's like, of course he's going to get towed. I mean, that's just like, what are you even thinking? But anyway, they get into the club, and I have this whole sequence where her hair fascinates me in this movie, because it's kind of like Judy Garland in The Wizard of Oz. Like, it's doing something different in every scene. It's a different length. It's a level of curliness that's different. But that was my hair. Except it was brown.
Yeah.
When I was in high school.
Peak 80s hair. Like, just like the curls and how big it is, and like kind of like she's got like a side like pinup thing going. She's adorable. Everybody drink Heather. First of all, Heather Graham is still is beautiful. Like, she is beautiful, and she is like the epitome of like the high school crush in this movie. Like, she's just with the hair and the big blue eyes and all of that. Her character interests me because she has her older boyfriend, who I assume is Italian, because he's like is Paulo, and then he's like, ciao, baby, like storms off. But then at one point she's like, you don't control me. This isn't Pakistan or Iran. And I'm like, girl, what are you doing? And sometimes she seems real smart, and then other times she seems real dumb. And then
they get her drunk.
Yeah.
And then they put her in the trunk. Yes. And that's where she is for like most of this movie. And I'm just like, wow, you could have gotten rid of one of the kids and just had her in the back seat and have them all go on an adventure.
Yes.
But because in the end she thinks she just dreamed, and I'm like, you were thrown around a trunk in so many godforsaken ways. I mean, how she's not sick. It's astonishing, but it turns into this comedy of errors. So he's just getting into one thing after the other, and there are movies that have those things.
Yes,
and I mean, they do them, but do they do them well? Sometimes,
right?
And sometimes there's a movie I can't remember. I think it's with her as well, and it's like with Ethan Hawke.
Oh, Mystery Date.
I
don't remember if it's her. I think it's.
Or somebody like Terry
Polo. Yes.
Yeah, and BD Wong, who's like the bad guy, and they're in San Francisco. It's I think like they do that a little bit better than they do this. I think they're just because they're young and they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
And Corey Feldman, really, his only job is to go,
yeah, do it. He's like the little devil on Corey Haim's shoulder the whole movie. Like, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's a very thin plot is what I'm trying to say. Because I'm looking at this, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? Like, it's Heather Graham's adorable. There's a drunk guy behind the wheel at some point. So they have the grandfather's Cadillac.
This poor car, like he steals this car. He sneaks this car out. He steals it. He steals his grandfather's car.
That's stealing.
Yeah, and he immediately, like, everyone is so shitty if he would just say like, hey, I stole this car from my grandfather, like, let's not fuck up my car. Like, she's dancing on the hood in her heels, the hood caves in, like, the Corey Feldman character is like wants to smoke in the car at one point. I'm like, everyone is so shitty to this car. Like,
well, and there's constantly, like, it covers his eyes. He's like distracting him when he's driving. I'm like, you are just trying to get killed is what I think you're trying to do. Yeah. And that's kind of the movie. There's a drunk that takes over the car for a little while, and then he has to drive and get in there. And at the same time, his mother is super duper pregnant, about to give birth any second. And Richard Masur and Carol Kane, let's see their apartment. I was kind of like, let's go back to them because they're really funny.
They are really funny and really
kooky
and so kooky and like really good parents. They're so nice to him.
Yes.
When he doesn't really deserve.
No, my dad wouldn't be that easygoing.
No. And there's this scene where like he's out driving with his dad and he sees Mercedes walking and he's like, Dad, that's like the girl of my dreams. Like, do me a solid, like, get out of the car, take all the diapers out, and like let me like pick her up and give her a ride to her house. It's like 2 houses down or whatever. And the dad was so nice. He was like, oh, I totally get it. Like, let me do this for you. And immediately, like, Corey Haim fucking blows it and is like driving her to like a whole other part of the city. And like his dad is rightfully mad. And he doesn't, like, he punishes him, but then he, immediately like steals grandpa's car and like does all kinds of shitty stuff.
He does so many, and it's like every dumb thing that can happen to him happens to him. And then they're being chased by, there's the old guy, there's the drunk guy.
Yeah, there's like another group of like older kids in a car that are like, that they keep running into, because at one point they're like, we need to go to like atomic arcade something. I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? But then it's like a drive-in restaurant, where you like can order from your car, and like the waitresses are like skating around, and they're like sexy roller skating waitresses, and they're like, this is heaven. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. For you, yeah.
For them, sure. So meanwhile, Mercedes is locked in the trunk. I'm like,
just sleeping it off.
Just sleeping it off. It's all fine. Yeah, and then they roll up on a DUI stop, and they let him go, even though he doesn't have his license. And then a drug steals his car, and this is true for so many like 80s comedies. They end in car chases.
Yeah.
And this is the whole thing. The drunk like has the car, and they're trying to catch up to it, and he does this whole like jumping from one car to the other and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, Carol Kane is I really would have liked more of the Carol Kane dad stuff, where like she keeps thinking she's in labor but she isn't, and she keeps waking the dad up. Maybe it's because I'm older now and I'm like, could I see more of the parents, please?
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I look at movies now. Like the teenagers, I get that. I already understand that.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, his twin sister's Nina Shiamasko. We talked about her when we talked about Airheads.
Yes.
And she's dating a communist.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. And it's so random. It's like everybody else has really pretty much nothing to do. They have just like, especially the girls, I think like, they're like, hey, congratulations, you got a role in a movie. And they both were like, oh, that's exciting. I'm with the Coreys.
Yeah.
And then they get the script. They're like, what am I doing in this thing?
Yeah.
Like,
the sister stuff is so weird because she goes to like a protest. So she's got the family car, and
it's at night.
And it's at night, and they like at some point they cross paths, but the sister doesn't tell on him, I guess. But like, it doesn't like show up again.
Yeah,
it's and the protest is on TV. I don't know, but then like the dad turns off the TV, so there's no like, oh, and then he sees Corey Haim on TV, or he almost sees Corey Haim, like none of that stuff. It's very strange story. And then the guy who's playing her communist boyfriend, I'm gonna look it up. His name is Grant Heslov, and Grant Heslov went on to like partner with George Clooney, and he is written a whole bunch of stuff. Hold on. And he won an Academy Award. Oh, sorry. Nominated for an Academy Award for screenplay for Good Night and Good Luck.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He's like a big like producer. And then he was one of the producers of Argo. So he did win an Oscar because that won Best Picture.
Wow.
So there you go. He grew up to be an Oscar winner, that communist.
Yeah, he's a screaming communist, and she like dresses like a rebel.
Yes.
And she takes the car, and I guess she's still with him because it's the next day. Corey Haim, we're fast forwarding because there's nothing really that happens in this movie.
No.
But he takes the car home, and it's a mess.
Yes.
And of course, it's the only car they have, and the mother's going into labor, and no one thinks to call a cab or a car service. Like, how long could that possibly take?
Right.
No, let's take this piece of shit car with no back window.
Mm-hmm.
With my son who just failed his test.
Yes. And drive backwards.
The car. Yeah. And we'll drive backwards to the hospital because that's the safest, quickest option available to us. So as they're driving to the hospital, there's water going on. He's driving past his old instructor backwards.
Yeah.
And just completely, and Corey Haim, I read in IMDb the trivia. He was really upset because he didn't realize how often he left his mouth open, and he does.
He does. That is one of his things where he just.
That's one of his traits. He just happens to do that.
Yeah.
And then they get them to the hospital, and shock, they have twins.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! And they bring them home, and then they have to explain to the grandfather how they ruined his 1963 Cadillac.
Yeah.
And the grandpa's like, ha ha, joke's on you, because I fucked up your car.
Yeah.
Take a look.
Dun 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 dun.
And then, get out of my dreams.
Oh my God. This movie has one of those lines because they're like, like, here, you can have the shitty, beat up, smashed up BMW. And he's like, I don't need a BMW because I've got a Mercedes. And he like jumps into Heather Graham's car and drives off, even though he doesn't have a license. And then we get the like, get out of my dreams.
And at one point, they take her home. And she's like, oh my God, she didn't remember anything.
No.
Which is scary.
That
like
is
something.
She was real drunk.
She must have been real messed up. But also she's like, I just feel so safe around you. I'm like, you do? He's like half foot shorter than you. I mean, anyway, they kiss and then he takes off with her and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. I know that they were probably pretty close in age. But once again, because Corey Haim has such a baby face.
That's the thing.
Like, she still looks older than him and out of his league. And they're like kissing at the end. And I'm like, he's too young for you. But he probably wasn't. That's the thing. Yeah. I'm sure that they were actually really close to the same age.
He was getting his driver's license at that time.
I'm like, did I read that she actually dated Feldman during this or something? I thought I read that somewhere.
I think that's Feldman saying that.
She's like,
nope.
I did read that Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, like they were always auditioning against each other and always like Haim got the lead. Like it happened every time and it happened on this one too. And I'm like, it makes sense. Like, I'm sorry, Corey Feldman just doesn't have that energy, I guess. Like, he's a really good, like, best friend.
He's a great best friend. He's a good supporting character.
Yeah.
He's great in, what's the movie I'm thinking of? Stand By Me.
Yes, he's so good.
Which is like a year or two later. He's really, or even before that.
I think it might be before. Yeah, that's so good.
He's a great actor, I think. But it's sort of like, being a teen idol is very tough to get out of.
Yes.
For anybody, men or women, just to get out of that and then to be seen as a grown up, which when we read about, I'll tell you about this when we talk about the top 10 songs at the time. But so, it's not a long lifespan, that career. I mean, it takes a lot to, it's good. It's smart if you learn how to produce and direct and write because you can keep your hand. That's what our communist does here. Like that's how.
Yeah, I mean that's what oh my God, it totally went out of my Alex Winter from Bill and Ted. Like he's like writing and producing now. I mean, he did the most recent Bill and Ted movie, but it's a smart move to venture out and do behind the scenes stuff and then maybe come back even like right now in the theaters is Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it stars, oh my God, he was in Goonies and
the young, and Indiana Jones.
Yes, and I need to look up his name. I'm going to do it right now. Everything.
Because he was a child actor, and then he got out of the business for a while, and then he decided to go back.
And now he's back, and his name is K. Kwan. K. Kwan, and he's so great in that movie, by the way. Sometimes you just have to take a step back. Also, Corey Feldman has a lot of things going on that other than his career, he needs to be working on himself, I suspect.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite song on the soundtrack?
Get Out of My Dreams. Get into my car.
I know that's.
And I like all the songs here, by the way. This is a tough one for me because I also like I Feel Free.
Yeah.
Belinda Carlisle's version of a Cream song. Mercedes Boy is a great song.
That song is awesome.
So awesome. Jane Wiedlin, Rush Hour.
Oh, I love that song too. I even like the Breakfast Club remake of Drive My Car. It's not
New Edition is in there. DJ Jazzy Jeff.
It's a really good soundtrack.
Frank Sinatra's on the soundtrack in a couple of spots. I'm like, it's very entertaining. It's just that it's light as a feather. This is there's not a lot to mine here. I think it is the tragedy is sort of like they didn't really outgrow that.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
then it really hurt their adult the visions of their self-esteem as adults. And, yeah.
But this is the type. First of all, this movie was a request, from.
Oh yeah.
So I don't remember who requested it, but somebody posted in our What a Creep group that they wanted to see License to Drive. So that's why we're doing it.
And then a bunch of people jumped right in, or like, yes, now please.
Yeah. So that's why we're talking about it. And this movie played it surely it was made for USA Network. It was made
really
for
well.
it. Yeah,
it made a lot of money.
It did. And like I said, movies for teenagers, actually we'll transition right into that. I looked up other movies for teenagers that were released in 1988. So you could
let's do it.
So you could get an idea. So For Keeps.
That's one we have to talk about. I saw that a bunch of times because it was on the pay-per-view channel.
Yeah, that is, if you don't know this one, it's the one where Molly Ringwald gets pregnant. That's what it is. We just talked about this one, Vice Versa.
I watched it after we talked about it last week. It's on HBO Max, and it really holds up. It's
my gosh.
Cute.
Okay, good to know. Johnny Be Good.
Not good.
Not good.
Johnny B, not good. Johnny B sucked.
Anthony Michael Hall, Robert Downey Jr., and
Uma.
And Uma Thurman. 18 Again.
Not great.
Nope.
I've seen it a bunch, but yeah.
I actually like this one. It was a remake of The Blob.
The Blob 2?
It was just called The Blob, but it was
with Kevin Dillon?
Yes. I put it on the list because I believe they're all playing teenagers, but I remember liking that one. Cocktail.
Is that a teenager movie?
No, but I felt like it was marketed to teenagers. That's why I put it on the list.
Okay.
Young Guns.
That is such the teenage young lady. Oh my God. College girls.
Yeah. I'm like, I put Young Guns on our list, by the way, because I was like, I have a feeling we should talk about Young Guns, and maybe we do Young Guns too. Maybe we do a twofer, because I think it would be a good conversation. Mystic Pizza.
Great movie. We talked about it.
Yeah. There was a movie called 1969.
I know that movie. Winona Ryder.
Yes.
Kiefer Sutherland.
And I think Robert Downey Jr. again.
Robert Downey Jr. again. Yep.
Yeah. Did you like it? Because I know I saw it.
It was on our pay-per-view.
Yes.
I think if I'm in my bedroom in Danville, California in 1989, I got nothing to do, and it's on, and I have a stack of magazines I can flip through, it's perfect.
Yes. And then
so that may be situational.
And then the last one was called Fresh Horses.
That's also Molly Ringwald?
Yes, Molly Ringwald and Andrew McCarthy, a Pretty in Pink.
And she's playing a seductress.
Once again, trying to get out of that teenage mold. Molly Ringwald didn't make the transition very well either. I mean, she works now and she's great. It's a tough transition, man.
She was on the cover of Time magazine. She was a big star.
Yes.
She was it. But it's very, like I said, and also because she also did the year before this, because I wrote this for my book. There's one she did with Robert Downey Jr.
Oh, yes.
And set in Coney Island.
The Pickup
Artist. Wow, is that a fucked up movie?
So fucked up.
And the director is a super fucking asshole.
Yep.
But she was only 18 when she did that movie, 18 or 19 maybe, and she was a woman who gets picked up by Robert Downey Jr. and she also has a gambling problem, and her father's an alcoholic. It's all this shit. So she was going for the adult roles when she was like 18.
Yeah.
And you kind of like either need to Jodie Foster it and go to college for a few years and then come back as a young adult.
Yes.
Like
Natalie Portman is a good example.
Yeah. Sometimes it's, and what are the roles for 18, 19, 20-year-olds? What do you...
Right.
It's tough. I mean, look, show business is fucking tough no matter what.
It's so tough. And then it's hard on child actors to make that transition. And it's tough, I think probably even harder for women to make that transition. I mean, Molly Ringwald had a hard time with it. Jodie Foster did it well. Natalie Portman did it well. But like Drew Barrymore really struggled. For a long time making that transition too. And like she had all kinds of personal stuff. I mean, working in this industry can really fuck with your head is what we've all learned.
Yes.
And that was all of our teenager movies.
So do you want to hear what the top 10 hits were for the week this movie came out?
Hell yeah, I do.
All right, it came out July 6th, 1988, the middle of summer. Number 10, you'll love this, I'll Be Sure, Night and Day.
Fucking love that song.
Loved I'll Be Sure. This you couldn't get away from, especially if you live in the Bay Area. Bruce Hornsby, Valley Road.
You could not get away from Bruce Hornsby.
He might as well have just been saying, I want to play for the Grateful Dead forever.
I have a friend who's in love with and has been always obsessed with Bruce Springsteen. And I always fuck with her and pretend to mix up Bruce Springsteen with Bruce Hornsby.
Oh.
And it drives her up the wall. And I'm like, I love Bruce Springsteen. He did like Mandolin Rain. And she's like, oh! Such a stupid joke.
Richard Marx, Hold On to the Nights.
Love Richard Marx. He's so rad on social media. Follow Richard Marx.
Here's our example. Debbie Gibson, Foolish Beat. She was so popular.
Insanely popular.
And talented.
Yes.
And did all of her own writing. She plays piano. She can sing. And just had a very hard time. Her and Tiffany were like big at the same time. And neither one really. Number 6, Poison, Nothing But a Good Time.
This was totally Margot's jam.
Yes. Michael Jackson, Dirty Diana.
Yeah.
I love this song. In Excess, New Sensation.
I
love In Excess was great.
So into In Excess, yes.
Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me. That's my stripper song.
I love that song. I do.
It holds up.
It's so good.
Number 2, Pebbles, Mercedes Boy.
It's such Pebbles was real great. She had this
adorable.
Everybody drank. She had this one and she had Girlfriend. It was such a good song.
And then number 1, Cheap Trick, The Flame.
Oh my God.
One of those ballads that like
yeah. Slow dance.
Xander.
Slow dance song. Awkward slow dance song. I totally listened to it. This was July 88. I would have been working my first job at the movie theater.
I was at the mall.
Yeah. So all of this stuff was, and then
they
hang
would
out
play
in the break.
Music
yes. This is mall music for sure.
Mall music, store music. Like it was, what was the radio stations? WCAU. There was,
well, we had like KMEL.
Camel. That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh shit.
KITS Live 105.
Yes, Live 105. There was like Quad, so it was 106.5.
Yeah, KFOG.
Yeah, KFOG. And there was like a super top 40 one. Shit.
And
I don't
had
know.
their own morning zoo or something, I remember. But anyway, it was like this was like when I worked at the mall. You would listen to this, you would hear this music everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah.
What else are you dorking out about?
HBO Max, they just kind of snuck in. We talked about this on our Patreon bonus set, but I want to talk about it here because I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but The Way Down.
I watched the first episode last night
of the
new ones. Yeah.
And what'd you think?
It's fucking bananas.
Yeah. It's Gwen Shamblin was a woman. She's a preacher. She had her own little, it was a weight loss system / church that, if you pray to God, you'll get thin. It's basically, they're accused of being a cult. And she and her husband died in a plane crash on their way to a Trump rally. And it's so there's two more parts to this. They released this past fall, so this is just following up on that. And a lot of people, like, once they died, they were calling the producers like, "Have I got a story for you?" And the power they had and the money they had, and the daughter. Oh my God.
It's real crazy. So they started filming this documentary before they died, right? And they were putting it together, and now that they have passed away, all these people are coming out of the woodwork. So these last 2 episodes are just all these people coming out now and telling their stories. And that one I watched, it was stressing me out.
Yeah.
And because the husband, it's like her second husband, had a daughter from a previous relationship, and they start kind of playing it up like maybe the daughter was on the plane, and I was like,
I got very upset.
Yeah, like, is she on the plane? Because this is like a very, like, an innocent kid who probably shouldn't have even been there. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it was really stressing me out. But it's really,
she doesn't die in the plane crash. The child doesn't. Yeah, but it's there was 2 sets of parents, and their kids were adopted by other people in the church because that was written in their will, not like family members. And it's crazy. I saw it a couple of times. I'm still super enjoying Julia.
Oh, I need to start. I need to start.
I think you'd like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Under the Banner of Heaven, that's a show on Hulu. It's true crime about a Mormon murder case, LDS, like it's FLDS, I think. They're like, anyway, that's really interesting. Andrew Garfield on Paramount.
That one's really good.
Really good. Paramount Plus, I was telling you, like, The Offer, which is about The Godfather. It's for Godfather nerds only. It's not that great, but it's fine. But I was saying to you, like, oh, there's a real world in New Orleans, but I'm going to wait a while because I get too anxious. I want to see them all at once. I'll just wait till it's all done, and then I'll watch it. And of course, last night I started watching it, and there's only 2 episodes, and then I was so fucking upset. I'm like,
you're
what
hilarious.
with Julie at the bar? What happens?
You are so funny. You can't help yourself.
I can't help myself. And if you liked the real world in the old times, and if you followed that season in New Orleans, and I get why they get to you, because it's been 22 years. And in that time, you either grow up and really change, or you don't.
You double down, or you double down
on it.
Yeah.
It's true in life. Like, you and I know this now. Like, we have friends like for a long time, and some people like go with the times, and you change things, and you learn new things, and you add to, and some people are like, what they thought when they were 21, that's what they think now.
Yeah, because it's the worst thing you can do is admit that you learned something.
I guess. And there's this girl on the show, and she's Mormon. Oh my God, Mormons are playing a part today. She was Mormon, and that was her like identity on the show. And also the show, and I was reading a think piece in Vox about this. It's Vox, right?
Yeah.
You don't say Vo or something like that.
No, it's Vox, and I love Vox, by the way, and I love Vulture. They are like my 2 go-to things that I read. And
they were talking about how women of color especially were presented in the real world. And it's always like white girls could scream and yell and cry and throw fits. And anytime somebody of color gets angry, it was really magnified. Like Cora from New York, she's an angry woman. And there was a woman named Melissa, and Julie on the show. So that's the season where there was a gay man, and he had a boyfriend that was in the military. Do you remember this? Did you watch this?
I didn't watch New Orleans.
So there was a person, he was homosexual. It was like 1999 or 2000. And his boyfriend came to visit, and his boyfriend was in the military. And at the time, you could not admit.
Yes, correct.
And so
don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell. And then he himself became this famous gay star because he was out of the closet. And he turns out he's a total introvert, and he's somebody that like didn't want to be famous, didn't want to be known. And it's very interesting, like what he's turned into. He's a good person. And then there's a girl named Kelly who marries Scott Wolf. Like Party of Five, Scott Wolf. She's
Scott Wolf from Go?
Yes. The Go Scott Wolf.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, there's a girl named Julie, and she's making an asshole of herself. And of course, she's literally being kicked out of a bar because she's being an idiot. And it happens to be an African-American guy in the house who's struggling to get her out because she's just being, and then she accuses him of bruising her. And she's screaming this. And it's like, you can't yell about a black man hurting you in the street. It's just, anyway, but then that's they're like, okay, to be continued. I'm like,
what have I done?
I'll stay up till 4 a.m. watching all this. I just want closure.
You are so funny. We literally talked about this yesterday. And then,
we did. I told you I'm not going to do it. And then I did it. And
I'm not going to do it, girl. I'm not going to do it. I did it.
I did it. Podcasts, you must remember this. They're having a whole series right now on sexy 80s movies.
What?
Really good.
Writing it down. Okay.
You must remember this. And there's a couple of there's Celebrity Book Club, and then there's Celebrity Memoir Book Club. And it's basically women comics reading celebrity biographies and autobiographies and kind of goofing on them. And I find them enjoyable. And my last note was R.I.P. Naomi Judd.
Yeah, that's
so sad.
It's real sad. That was a bummer.
Yeah.
I'm totally gonna listen to this. You must remember this.
Oh,
sexy
you'll
80s.
Really like it.
Yeah, I am all in on that. They did an episode just for me. I've got a couple things too. I started We Own This City on HBO Max, which is a David Simon production. So David Simon is someone I've always really liked. I had read, he was a reporter for the Baltimore Sun. He had written a book called Homicide, Life on the Street, which was about, like, he spent a year with the, like, homicide squad in the Baltimore Police Department, and then it turned into the TV show Homicide, Life on the Street, which I was obsessed with back in the day. Like, I own every season on DVD. Like, I was all in. And then he went on to do, like, The Wire and Treme, and he did The Deuce, which wasn't really my jam, but whatever. The James Franco factor. Now he's doing We Own the City, and it's kind of the rise and fall of the Baltimore Police Department's, like, gun trace task force. It's almost like it's not a sequel to The Wire because a lot of the same actors are playing different parts, but it definitely, like, it's almost like a spiritual sequel, if you will. And I really like David Simon things. I think they're very interesting. He's not afraid to tell hard stories. Like, these stories are hard and they're complicated. And I'm very curious to see how it's going to play out because there's only one episode at a time. So, which I think, which is smart.
Like real world.
Yeah, which I think is smart for a show like this because David Simon shows are not bingeable. You need to watch them and think about what you just watched, I think. Yeah. And so I really appreciate that they're doing them one at a time. There's a couple of things I noticed is that a lot of the people from The Wire who played drug dealers are playing police officers this time. And I just wonder if this is like a conscious choice. Like, is he, the police department is not looking good so far in this, I will say. And I think that Homicide, Life on the Street, they were all good cops who really wanted to do the right thing. And then The Wire was also like, these were complicated people who did sometimes some fucked up shit, but they were also really trying to solve cases. We Own This City. Some of these cops are just fucked up and they're shitty people. And so you can see, like, the progression of the story he's telling here about the police. And there's some people in We Own the City that you'll recognize. So that I'm going to look it up right now so I could get everybody's names right. John Bernthal is in this. Josh Charles shows up, We love some Josh Charles here.
Yeah.
He plays such a prick. He's such a prick in this movie. Jamie Hector, Delaney Williams, Nathan Corbett. There's just a bunch of people in here that when you watch it, you'll be like, hey! Like, they're all from the, like, David Simon universe. So I recommend that a lot. I also watched on HBO Max Death on the Nile.
I tried watching that. I gave up like 20 minutes in.
Why am I watching these movies? Okay, so I watched Murder on the Orient Express. I didn't really like it. I actually like Kenneth Branagh as Poirot. Like, yeah, like I like that. Like, and I like murder mysteries, and I like what it wants to be, like this like star-studded murder mystery. So I want to like it so much. So I watch Murder on the Orient Express, and I'm like, no, like I don't really like it. But I like so much what it wants to be that I decide to watch Death on the Nile, and I just don't. And I'm like, I don't like this one either. But if they made another one, I would totally watch it. And I'm like, why?
Because you think it's going to get better. They'll learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
I wonder how much they actually shot on location, because what I'm getting from movies now is I notice the green screen way more often than it used to happen.
Yes.
And I find that distracting.
Yeah.
And also there's the whole Army Hammer of it all.
Okay. So the first one, by the way, Murder on the Orient Express, Johnny Depp is in it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, ew. And then this one has Army Hammer, and I'm like, ew. And I'm like, is he doing this on purpose? Is he purposely picking these people that are problematic, to put it lightly, and putting them in his movies? Or was this filmed before? I don't know. But this movie has a really good cast. Like Gal Gadot is in there, Annette Bening, Letitia Wright. Like, there's a lot of really good people in here. And I like Kenneth Branagh a lot. But there's also this, like, we get a fucking, like, origin story for his mustache. Dude, I don't need that. Who needs that?
I didn't. I stepped out before the origin story. I just, like, 20 minutes in, like I told you, I was like, this isn't going to work for me.
No.
I went back to watch the original.
Yeah, I have seen the original Murder on the Orient Express, and I think maybe that took some of my enjoyment out of the remake, because I thought maybe they would change who the killer was, but they didn't. So I was like, oh, it's the same movie. Like, and the original's fine. I like the original. Maybe I'll watch the original Death on the Nile. Maybe I'll like it better.
Maybe.
And then the last thing I was going to mention was I've been following Clementine Ford on all of her channels on Instagram and Facebook, and I really like what she's posting. And she recently did this long post about like being untethered, about being single, choosing to be single, and I was really enjoying it. So I decided to download her book, and I have been listening to her book, How We Love, and it's really, really great.
Really?
It's really great. Like, it's different stories. I mean, trigger warning, she talks about like how her mother passed away from cancer. So that maybe that's upsetting to a lot of people. It's upsetting to me, like, and it would be upsetting to other people, but it's really well done. I'm really enjoying the book. Enjoying is a weird word for this, but I'm liking it. I'm glad I'm listening to it. I just think she's real great. I think I'm going to listen to some of the other ones too. She did Fights Like a Girl and Boys Will Be Boys. So I'll be doing those next. I'm just all in on her right now.
Oh, that's great.
So that's what else I'm dorking out about. I'm glad we did License to Drive. This was a great request, y'all. Good job. It was
fun.
Yeah, please. We love requests. Bring them on. It saves us the work of having to pick. We like that. Margot, where could people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Brooklyn Fit Chick, and I'm on TikTok at Margot Donahue.
Everyone should follow Margot. Her book is coming out soon. You're getting all kinds of sneak peeks on her social. Do it.
Yep.
Do it. You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. I'm having some fun there, ruining it for the kids. And if you want some stickers, some Dorking Out stickers, What a Creep stickers, whatever you want, you can email us at dorkinoutshow@gmail.com. If you give us a review on any platform, we'll give you a shout out. That would be fabulous. It would really offset the 1-star reviews we get from people going, I don't like ladies' voices. I don't like what they say about movies that I like. They're lame. You can find Dorking Out at dorkinoutshow.com. And we're on Twitter. And I'm going to start posting on our Facebook and Instagram because it's the right thing to do. I've neglected it long enough. It's time. So I will be posting on there again. I promise. This was super fun, though. I'm good pick. Oh my goodness! Margot's allergic to this movie.
My allergies are so bad, y'all. Sorry.
Margot, get out of my dreams.
Get the hell out of this pollen.